So what is going on, everyone? Fernando Silva here with another video, and I posted a poll on my YouTube channel to figure out exactly what video you guys wanted to see next. And the number one video was gaming on the new M1 iPad Pro with iPadOS 15. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the different types of controllers we can use, what type of compatibility we have, how it works on the M1, how to connect these controllers, and then finally I'm going to make some game recommendations that I've been playing a lot from both the Apple Arcade side and then just like the regular App Store. But don't sleep on Apple Arcade because Apple Arcade is actually getting better and better as time goes on, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's get into the video. So let's hop right into it, everybody. So the first thing that I do want to mention is that I am on the beta software of iPadOS 15. So we're on iPadOS 15 beta 3. And the only reason I'm saying that is because I have heard that there are some issues, especially connecting the newer generation controllers. But supposedly with iPadOS 15, you should be getting support for the new PS5 controllers and the new Xbox controllers. Because prior to iPadOS 15, we only had really support for the PS4 and the Xbox One generation consoles. So these are the ones that I'm going to be using because, again, I haven't bought the new generation console, so I haven't actually been able to test it out. But if you're on iPadOS 14 or iPadOS 15, these will work no problem. And I've had zero issues with these controllers on iPadOS 14, and even with the new beta software of iPadOS 15, zero connectivity issues. And just in case you don't know how to actually connect these controllers, it's very simple. You just go to your Bluetooth settings on your iPad, make sure that your actual controller is in pairing mode. So with, I think, the Xbox controller, hold down that little button on the top, and then with the PS4 controller, you hold down the PS button and then the share button, and that'll put you into pairing mode, and then shows up on the Bluetooth connection, tap it, and then you're connected and you're ready to go. And I know that I'm mostly talking about these console controllers, but there are a ton of MFI controllers which are made for iDevices that are specifically made for like mobile gaming on the iPhone and on the iPad. But I just kind of stuck with what was around me, especially now that it works pretty much flawlessly. And I have an Xbox, I have a Switch, and I have a PS4, so I figured why not use the controls I have around me, and they work perfectly. So now that we have that out of the way, what I really wanted to do with this gaming test is kind of use games that I use on a regular basis, but also games that are pretty intense when it comes to, graphic performance, overall performance, frame rate, things like that, because not a lot of people, I don't think at least, are using their iPad to play like Doodle Jump or Angry Birds. I mean, maybe Angry Birds, but those are like the smaller, more, 5-10 minute passer time games. Those games I'm playing on my iPhone, right? I play trivia games on the iPhone, some like side view kind of racing games, things like that, but those are all games where I grab my phone, play for 5 minutes, and put it away. Now, these games that we're talking about today are games that I'll sit there and play for hours, guys. Especially the first one we're going to talk about, I play for hours on end. So for this, we actually picked 4 different games, 2 of them from Apple Arcade and 2 of them from the regular App Store. So I am a subscriber of Apple Arcade. They're $5 a month. There's usually at least a 1-month free trial if you've never used it. And if you have a new iDevice or a relatively new one, they usually give you about 3 months free. So Apple Arcade, we're going to start with those games first. And the first game that we're going to start with is NBA 2K21. I absolutely love this game. You guys have probably seen in a lot of my iPadOS update videos that is one of the biggest reasons why my battery life does get killed throughout the day, because it is a very intensive or task-intensive game, and graphically it's a pretty big deal to have NBA 2K on the iPad Pro. Now, when I did get NBA 2K, my biggest wish was for it not to be a watered-down version, because that's what I've always wanted. I've wanted at least Madden or NBA 2K or just like a really good sports game that isn't watered-down version of the console-level game, right? Because you can get FIFA, there is a Madden, there is an NBA Live and another NBA 2K on the App Store, there's PGA Tour, there's all these different, console names out there on the App Store, but they're always watered-down versions because they're free to download, but usually pay to play, right? Which is not the model that I want. And at this point, I'd rather have developers charge us $60 for a game through the App Store, and I'll just have that forever and never have to actually pay for in-app purchases, because then I'll go back to like regular gaming and really considering the iPad Pro a console replacement. So let's talk about NBA 2K21, right? NBA 2K21 is still, I'm not going to consider it a watered-down version, but it's still not a one-to-one counterpart of the console level version of this game. So you still have the play now mode, you still have like the be a player mode, which is the best mode in the world. Then you have the blacktop, multiplayer, online, things like that. The thing that you don't have is like a GM season mode. So if you're really big into starting a season with a whole team and doing that whole thing, then you might want to hold off on this one. But if you're into the be a pro, creating your own player, leveling up your player, taking that same player online to the blacktop and playing 3v3. So if you guys know anything about NBA 2K, then you know what I'm talking about. But from a graphical standpoint, I would actually put it like at the Xbox One level. Maybe a tiny bit less from a graphical standpoint, but overall the graphics are great. If you hold this side by side to like an Xbox One or a PS4, it's going to be very, very difficult to find the difference in terms of graphics and performance and things like that, because this thing runs so smooth, especially now with the M1 chip and being able to kind of stay in your RAM and that RAM management working even better. I no longer have to like wait for a game or finish an entire game before leaving the app, which is something that did happen a lot with my 2018 iPad Pro. But like I said, the graphics are awesome. I primarily stick to the be a player mode. My guy's I think like a 92, 93 overall. I've finished about 3 or 4 seasons with him. It does take a long time to actually get to that point. I put in countless hours on my NBA 2K grind, but I absolutely love the game. If you're into NBA 2K, you're gonna love this, and I think that this game alone is worth it for $5 a month. Like, I'm willing to pay, especially if they give us NBA 2K22 when it comes out. If they keep upgrading it and making it better and better, then I'm more than willing to pay the $5 a month literally just for NBA 2K21. Some of the caveats with this game, especially with platform controllers like the Xbox One and the PS4, the rumble packs won't work. So if you want your rumble packs to work, it's not going to work. You're not going to have any vibration, any haptic feedback on the controller. Not with NBA 2K21. And also for some reason, I don't know if it's maybe my game, but the announcers, you actually can't hear them. So normally in the console level version of it, you have like different volume settings for the FX volume, for the crowd volume, for the player volume, and then finally the announcer volume. And that's kind of what makes it feel like a real game. It's like you're watching a real game even though you're playing it. And for some reason the announcers aren't there. I don't know if maybe they just couldn't license like the voices of those announcers from the NBA to get them in the game, but they're not there. So if you are really used to like the announcers and like 4-3, right, things like that, you're not going to hear that. But from a gameplay standpoint, honestly from battery performance standpoint, even though it does chug a lot of juice, for the amount that I'm playing it for and how good the game is, I thought it would suck up a lot more juice than that. And then overall, from a fun factor, it works well. Like with the controller, there's zero learning curve if you've played on the Xbox or the PlayStation before and used a controller with this game. There's zero learning curve. Everything is exactly the same. I love NBA 2K and I highly, highly recommend it. But again, it runs perfectly on the M1 with zero hiccups. And like I mentioned, with the new 8GB RAM, the RAM management is so much better because before with my 2018 iPad Pro, if I left mid-game to like answer an email or check a text or search for something in Safari, and then I went back to the game would reset, and then I would have to like play my whole game all over again. But with the M1, if I leave the game and then come back to it, I'm exactly where I was before. The Xbox controller is still connected. I don't have to reconnect the controller. So RAM management has been a huge plus with these new games. The next really fun game that is still with Apple Arcade is this Lego Battle Brawl or Battle Royale. I forget exactly what it's called, but again, I'm going to link everything down below if you guys want to check it out. But imagine Super Smash Bros., but with Lego characters. That's exactly what this game is. It's a 4v4 kind of like side view. Everybody's attacking each other to get the most kills, get the most points. It's timed, and you basically just have your character. You have to earn trophies, go through the seasons, get power-ups, get new weapons and things like that. You can unlock new characters. So again, literally imagine Super Smash Bros. Online, but with Lego characters and like obviously new maps and things like that. And I really, really like this game. Games start happening in 10 seconds. Again, like I said, it's 4v4 and you're playing online with real people, and it works with the controller as well. So you can play it with touch, which works really well, but it also works extremely well with the PS4 and the Xbox controllers because you can jump around, float around, swipe at people, shoot at people, things like that. So the Legos game on Apple Arcade is great, and again, it's just gotten better and better over time. I remember it did crash a decent amount in the beginning. That could have been because I was on beta 1 of iPadOS 15, but now it's gotten a lot more stable. Again, same thing goes with the RAM management. Now, this is an always online game, so if you do leave it, then there is kind of like a respawn or reconnection circle that goes in, and then it'll put you back in the game. But again, you can go back into the game without the game restarting because the M1 iPad Pro has a base level of 8 gigs of RAM versus the 4 gigs that I was dealing with the iPad Pro from 2018. And again, there's some other honorable mention games that I mostly play on the iPhone, like Oregon Trail, Doodle Jump, Fruit Ninja, like those old classic games that were remastered and then put on Apple Arcade. They work great on Apple Arcade, and they obviously work great on the iPad Pro, but again, I wanted to test out some more graphic-intensive games and see if there was any drop frames or anything like that. But those are the two Apple Arcade games that I play. I'll say 2K on a daily basis, and then the Lego one, at least 2 or 3 times a week to play it out, make sure that I'm still leveling up with my guy and have enough trophies and things like that. But then there's 2 more games that I wanted to talk about on the App Store side. And my relationship with App Store games is very fickle because everything seems to be behind a paywall. Everything is based on in-app purchases to really expedite your growth in the game and things like that. So the first game we're going to talk about is one that I've been playing for over 2 years, and it is Marvel Strike Force. So Marvel Strike Force, you cannot use your controller with it. It is a touch-only game. And I do play it a lot on the iPhone, but I play it on the iPad as well with the trackpad to actually play it on the iPad Pro. But basically, it is a turn-by-turn, think League of Legends type game where you have 5 Marvel characters versus 5 other Marvel characters, and basically what you have to do is build your best team of 5, and then you can unlock every single Marvel character, and they add new Marvel characters on a weekly basis. That's basically what the game is. Now, there is an aspect of pay to play. I proudly have never spent a single cent on this game in 2 years because, again, it's one of those games that if you wait overnight, it'll regenerate all of your like spending points or your whatever you guys want to call it. I think in the game there's like 3 different types of like fuel to actually complete your fights and go through all the different challenges and things like that. So Marvel Strike Force, it's a long game, but I love it because graphically it's amazing. I'm a big fan of Marvel, so being able to unlock my favorite Marvel characters, it makes me feel a little bit better. Like, the only other game that I would play kind of like this, because I know there's other games like this. Like, I know that Disney made one, Harry Potter made one. There's a lot of different games that follow this same rule, but have different characters and different, I guess, licensing things. I went with the Marvel one because I'm big into Marvel. The only other one I would choose is like a Dragon Ball Z one. That would be dope. But again, this is a turn-by-turn game. You have your 5 characters versus the other 5 characters. You can collect heroes, villains, people from X-Men, from Deadpool, from Fantastic Four, to all the more common people like Thor, Iron Man, and all that good stuff. So that is Marvel Strike Force. Pretty self-explanatory, but again, there's a decent amount of paywall stuff, so you gotta be patient with the game. But I love it, and graphically it's awesome. And on the M1 iPad Pro, it runs so well, because on my iPhone 11 Pro Max, sometimes it jitters, but on the M1 iPad Pro, zero issues. And there's actually 2 more games that I wanted to touch on, both from the App Store side. One has to be Real Racing 3. This game has been around for a very long time. I used to play primarily on the iPhone, back when I thought gyroscopes were awesome. Back when, iPhones and gyroscopes and accelerometers were all the rave. Now every single phone has it, and they should be able to tell you, which way you're facing and what orientation you're holding the phone. But back then, when you used to steer on your phone, that was crazy. But now I play it on the iPad because you can use your controller, you can go through all the levels, but again, it's a pay-to-play game if you want to really advance through it quickly, but otherwise, it's just a racing game. You collect as many cars as you can, unlock as many cars as you can, go through all the racing challenges, go through all the Grand Prix at different countries and things like that. And I like how realistic it is. Aside from the crashing, when you crash, yes, it slows you down and it's a detriment to your race, but nothing happens to the car. At least visually, nothing happens to the car, because after the race, you still have to pay to repair it because of all the stuff that happened during the race, but visually, nothing happens to the car, and that's one thing that I wish they would change. But other than that, I think it's the best racing interface for the iPad Pro, especially to play with your controller and to play online with other people. So Real Racing 3 gets my nod of approval. And then finally, this is actually a relatively new game. I've only been playing it for about a week, but I wanted to throw it out there because I remember when old Runescape came out, I think about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, came out on the iPhone. I was like, whoa, I cannot believe they brought full-fledged Runescape from back in the day, brought it to the iPhone. Then they brought it to the iPad and it worked perfectly. But now they brought in a new RuneScape, I think it is, or basically just like a modernized version, which I think is what the online version is now. I remember I used to be obsessed with RuneScape. I was definitely a membership kid. I used to pay, I think there was a $5 a month to be a member for RuneScape. And that was back when membership services weren't a thing. I think back in like 2002, 2003. But I used to be a big advocate of RuneScape. So when this new one came out, I had to download it. It's not a controller-supported game, so honestly, you're way better off using a Magic Keyboard or a trackpad because it runs literally like the old RuneScape used to run. Like you point and click to where you want to go, point and click to interact with people, train your RuneScape character to be good at archery or wood making, or be really good at magic and things like that. So being able to train your guy and kind of feeling, it's a very nostalgic feeling to play something like RuneScape. So now that it's optimized a little bit more graphically and to run on the M1 iPad Pro, it's been a delight to play with. So I'm going to make that my last recommendation because I've only been playing it for about a week, but I've had a blast playing RuneScape. But those are my, I guess, top 5 games that I would play, those 2 Apple Arcade ones. And again, I do recommend Apple Arcade because it's hard to find a game, especially in the App Store, that doesn't have a paywall, that doesn't make you watch ads to avoid paying and things like that. So that's why I like Apple Arcade a lot, because you pay the $5 a month, you get about 180 games to play with, and they've been adding a lot, because I think they originally started with like 50 or maybe 100. Now they're up to 180 and consistently adding a bunch of new ones, and they're coming up with a couple that I think look really cool. So I'm a big advocate for Apple Arcade. I really like it. I think it's going to be the way to go moving forward. I'm just hoping they get some AAA titles like Madden, give us like full-fledged PGA Tour, things like that. That'll be the day when I don't think I'll ever need a console anymore, because the only console gaming that I'm doing right now is on the iPad. Especially in the last 6-7 months, I don't think I've even turned on my console, which is pretty crazy to think about, especially when I used to be playing hours on end back in the day. But that's going to do it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I want to shed some light on the power of the M1 iPad Pro, how I do think that gaming on the iPad Pro is going to be the future of console gaming, especially as more cloud streaming services, more cloud gaming services come into play and they start to really perfect that. So you'll have that side kind of pushing everybody to go mobile in terms of gaming, and then you're also going to have app stores, and then just the overall power of these tablets getting stronger and stronger to the point where we're going to be able to have AAA gaming directly on these iPad Pros, and that'll be the day where consoles are going to have, a run for their money, especially if you can use like console controllers. So there's almost no learning curve to playing the game on the iPad versus on a TV on your Xbox. Gonna be some awesome things happening. But that's gonna do it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment below. What are the main games that you guys play either on your iPhone or your iPad? Are you subscribed to Apple Arcade? And if you're not, how come? Do you think $5 isn't enough? Or maybe the games that they have aren't enough to warrant that $5 a month standpoint? But let me know in the comments below, everybody. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, peace. Also, LumaFusion 3.0 literally just released, so I'm updating LumaFusion. I'm going to have a video for you guys later on, so if you made it to the end, comment down below that you want a LumaFusion 3.0 editing on an external SSD review. But until next time, peace.